Something monumental has just unfolded, an event poised to shake the very foundation of America's economy. And it all begins with Canada's bold new trade law. In 2025, Canada enacted legislation that dramatically reshaped its trade framework with the United States and global partners. At first glance, it may appear to be just another policy shift, but the consequences are already hitting the U.S. hard. Some states now stand on the edge of economic collapse. This isn't guesswork. Leading economists and policy experts are sounding alarms. 8 U.S. states are positioned to fall first, and the reasons are far more urgent than most Americans realize. From collapsing industries to vanishing exports, the chain reaction is accelerating, and some states simply won't recover in time. Before we dive into the first state already showing cracks, be sure to like this video and subscribe so you never miss critical global updates like this one. Number 1. Michigan. Michigan is already on fragile footing, and Canada's new trade law may deliver the fatal blow. As a manufacturing hub deeply tied to the auto industry, Michigan's economy depends heavily on cross-border commerce with Ontario. Canada is, in fact, Michigan's top trading partner, moving billions in goods every year. But under Canada's tightened regulations, ranging from new environmental compliance costs to higher tariffs on unfinished auto parts, Michigan's automakers are cornered. Assembly lines in Detroit and Flint are grappling with delays, surging costs, and bottlenecks cascading through supply chains. Already, 14% of small auto suppliers have shut their doors in just the first half of 2025. Layoffs are piling up, and the pain is spilling into logistics, retail, and even housing. Number 2. Maine. Maine may not always dominate headlines, but it is uniquely vulnerable to Canada's trade decisions. Its economy, heavily tied to fisheries, forestry, and cross-border trade with Quebec and New Brunswick, has been hit hard. Canada's new law reclassified key U.S. timber and seafood imports as non-preferred, slapping them with steep tariffs and restricted port access. The impact is devastating. Over 40% of Maine's seafood exports, especially lobster and scallops, once flowed to Canadian markets. Now, many are blocked entirely under new bio-compliance rules. On the forestry side, Canadian restrictions on trucking permits are choking timber shipments, collapsing prices, and forcing logging companies out of business. Towns like Calais and Fort Kent are already seeing unemployment spikes and foreclosures. Number 3. North Dakota. North Dakota's economy is often overlooked, yet its dependence on agriculture and energy exports makes it extremely exposed. Canada's new law introduced subsidies for its domestic grain and energy producers, instantly undercutting American competitors. For North Dakota's wheat, barley, soybean, and crude oil exports, this is a direct hit. Rail shipments are slowing as Canadian buyers cancel contracts in favor of local suppliers. Farmers are facing the weakest crop sales in a decade, with grain silos overflowing and prices collapsing. The energy sector is equally battered. Pipeline access into Canada is being slashed under new environmental standards U.S. producers can't meet, shutting down rigs in the Bakken Formation. Number 4. Vermont. Small in size but deeply dependent on Canadian ties, Vermont has emerged as a surprising casualty. Canada's 2025 reforms tightened customs on dairy and agricultural imports, creating huge barriers for Vermont's artisan producers. Cheesemakers and maple syrup farmers, once thriving on Canadian demand, are now facing weeks of delays and outright rejections under new labeling rules. Over 30% of Vermont's specialty food exports once flowed north. Now that channel is collapsing. Tourism has also cratered. Quebec visitors, once a lifeline for Vermont's ski resorts and summer attractions, have dropped by over 60% thanks to stricter border checks and new fuel surcharges. Resorts are closing early, small businesses are folding, and even housing markets are unraveling as vacation rent. Number 5. Ohio. Ohio's industrial heartland is bleeding under these new trade barriers. With steel, aerospace, and agriculture at its core, Ohio has long leaned on Canada as a major partner. But Canada's carbon-focused tariffs now punish imports from U.S. states still reliant on fossil fuels, putting Ohio directly in the penalty zone. Steel plants in Cleveland and Youngstown are already cutting shifts and laying off skilled workers after demand fell by 20%. Farmers, too, are squeezed as Canadian buyers pivot to domestic or European suppliers. Even Ohio's trucking sector is reeling from new inspections and emissions checks, driving up costs and delaying deliveries. The result is systemic disruption, from empty grocery shelves to halted factory lines. Without intervention, Ohio could slide into a broader economic breakdown. Number 6. Washington. Washington may be known for tech and green energy, but its economy also leans heavily on agriculture, timber, and exports. Canada's new restrictions have quietly choked these sectors. Washington's apples, cherries, and wine, once staples in Canadian markets, are now blocked by quotas and expensive recertification hurdles. Farmers in Yakima and Wenatchee are watching entire harvests rot in storage. Lumber producers are faring no better. U.S. wood is now taxed and sidelined in favor of Canadian mills. Border regions are seeing mills close, jobs vanish, and property values sink. Ironically, Washington's proximity to Canada, once its greatest strength, has become a liability, with trade routes now delayed or rerouted altogether. Unless conditions change, Washington faces a slow, grinding unraveling of its rural economy. Number 7. New York. New York may look untouchable from Wall Street, but upstate industries are already cracking. Agriculture, manufacturing, and cross-border tourism have been gutted by Canada's pivot toward EU and Asia-Pacific trade partners. Small farms are being blacklisted under new Canadian health codes, leaving dairy and grain producers without markets. Factories in Buffalo and Rochester, once bustling with export orders, are facing empty books. Even tourism is collapsing. Canadian visitors, once a major driver of Niagara Falls and outlet malls, are staying home under stricter border rules. While the wealth of New York City masks the crisis, upstate communities are spiraling toward depression. Number 8. Minnesota. Minnesota's northern border has long fueled its prosperity. But under Canada's new trade system, its lifeline has turned into a chokehold. Iron ore, pork, dairy, and machinery exports are now caught in quotas, reclassification, and costly compliance checks. Mining towns in the Iron Range are slowing to a standstill as Canadian steelmakers turn inward. Farmers are being shut out under new welfare and labeling mandates. Machinery exports are burdened with inspection delays that drive costs up 30%. From Duluth to Mankato, layoffs are climbing and tax revenues are shrinking. Without immediate relief, Minnesota's export-driven sectors may collapse entirely. Canada's sweeping 2025 trade reforms may have started as domestic policy, but the ripple effect across the U.S. is already undeniable. From agriculture and manufacturing to tourism and shipping, these 8 states are in the grip of a slow-motion crisis, worsening by the month. If relations don't stabilize soon, America could see entire regions collapse under redirected commerce, shattered supply chains, and clashing policies. What we're witnessing may not just be a temporary disruption, but a permanent reset in North American economics. To stay ahead of seismic shifts like this, and understand how global policies impact your daily life, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more in-depth, reliable updates.